Lesson 1. Describing the UI and creating your first React component. 1. Understanding React and the UI. Let's begin by understanding what React really is. React is a JavaScript library created to build user interfaces, everything you see and interact with in a digital product, buttons, images, text, forms, and layouts. In any user interface, these pieces come together to form a complete experience. React's great contribution is allowing us to group these pieces into reusable components. Instead of repeating the same code across your project, you can create one component and reuse it anywhere, making development faster, cleaner, and easier to maintain. 2. Components, UI building blocks. React is built around the idea of components. Think of components as the building blocks of your interface, like custom-made pieces that you can combine to form more complex layouts. In HTML, we use built-in tags, such as headings, paragraphs, or lists. React takes that further by letting us create our own custom tags, representing meaningful parts of the interface, like a navigation menu or a product card. Once created, these components can be used as many times as you need across your app. This makes your project modular and consistent. Every part looks and behaves the same way wherever it appears. 3. Defining a component. Now, how do we actually define a component? A React component is simply a JavaScript function that returns a piece of the user interface. The special syntax it uses to describe the structure of the UI is called JSX. It looks similar to HTML, but it's written inside JavaScript. There are some key points to remember. First, the name of a component must always start with a capital letter. That's how React tells it apart from regular HTML elements. Second, every component must return something that represents its user interface. And finally, when that interface spans several lines, it's best to wrap it clearly so it's easier to read and avoids errors. 4. Using a component. Once a component has been defined, you can use it inside another component. This means components can be composed together, one inside another, to build more complex interfaces. For example, you might have a main section that displays several smaller components, such as profiles, cards, or widgets. React distinguishes between two kinds of elements. Lowercase names are interpreted as regular HTML elements, while uppercase names are recognized as React components. When the app runs, React ultimately translates everything into pure HTML that the browser can render. 5. Nesting and organizing components. It's common to organize several components within the same file, for example, defining both a small reusable component and a larger one that uses it. However, it's very important to follow best practices. Always define your components at the top level of your file, not inside another component's body. Why? Because defining one component inside another can lead to performance issues and confusing behavior. React may recreate that component every time the parent re-renders. Keeping them at the top level ensures they're defined once and reused consistently throughout your app. Recap. Let's review what we've learned in this first lesson. React is a JavaScript library designed to build user interfaces. The UI is made of reusable components, the building blocks of your app. A component is a JavaScript function that returns JSX, a syntax that lets you describe what the UI should look like. Component names must always start with a capital letter. You can reuse components anywhere, and you can also nest them inside others, forming a hierarchical structure. And finally, always define your components at the top level, never inside another one.